at Madison Square Garden in what could have been his last appearance in the ring. Almost all of the Fight Game's greatest had made a stand in the self-professed world's most famous arena. But how would his only appearance there play out? His 6th title or an inglorious end against a much gamer Terry Norris, the junior middleweight champ? Well, we found out this evening. Sugar Ray went down twice in the 2nd and 7th rounds. Really never was in control in any of the rounds. He did go the 12-round distance, but Terry Norris was a unanimous champion, retaining his title in a fight that just ended about 15 minutes ago. Sugar Ray got in the ring, got on the mic, and said he has fought his last bout. He did live his dream of fighting in Madison Square Garden, but I believe this final 5th retirement could be his last. Charlie Steiner was ringside. We'll have much more from Charlie later in this Sports Center.
Prime middleweight crown, and after the fight, Sugar Ray Leonard announcing his retirement again from the sport of boxing. Our Charlie Steiner was at Madison Square Garden tonight and files this report. Charlie?
Father Time plays no favorites, as Sugar Ray Leonard found out the hard way tonight at Madison Square Garden in New York, as Terry Norris, the WBC junior middleweight champion, knocked him down with a straight left hand in the 2nd round and an overhand right in the 7th round, winning a unanimous decision from Leonard. After the fight was over, Leonard announced that he, in fact, was retiring. It was a one-sided fight from the get-go, as the judges had it 119-103 for Norris, 120-104, and 116-110. It appeared really from the beginning that Ray Leonard looked every one of his 35 years of age. Actually, he turns 35 in May. And as I watched the fight, I couldn't help but remember October 2nd, 1980, in the parking lot at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, when Larry Holmes beat up his idol, Muhammad Ali. Terry Norris was saying all week how difficult it would be to get into the ring with his idol, Sugar Ray Leonard. In fact, Norris said he got interested in boxing watching Leonard in the 1976 Olympics in Munich. So Sugar Ray Leonard's career is over. Terry Norris's career appears to be just beginning. I'm Charlie Steiner, ESPN, at Madison Square Garden in New York. Now let's go back to Sports Center.
We'll, of course, be hearing from both fighters on later Sports Centers, but as he himself said at Center Ring, Sugar Ray Leonard's career came to a close tonight at the hands of Terry Norris. He was the most charismatic fighter of his generation, and now Charlie looks back on the man known simply as Sugar.
In the post-Ali era, no one star shined quite as brightly as Sugar Ray Leonard's. In Montreal, we all began to realize that this Olympic champion had more than just extraordinary ability. And although he balked at turning pro initially, Ray Leonard would soon be boxing's next superstar. His road to the title, though, was carefully orchestrated. With Angelo Dundee, who of course had been Ali's trainer, each fight was a learning experience. After 25 consecutive wins, Leonard got his first title shot. WBC welterweight champion Wilfred Benitez would hit the canvas twice in 15 rounds. Leonard would become champ, and his popularity was only beginning to soar. But Sugar Ray's return to Montreal, where he had won the Olympic gold, was not so sweet. He opted to fight Roberto Duran instead of box, and it would cost him a decision and the only loss of his professional career until Terry Norris. But 5 months later, Ray would get his revenge, as No Mas became part of our sports lexicon forever. Thomas Hearns would fight in Leonard's shadow for his entire career. Jealousy became an obsession, especially when Hearns came within minutes of his dream in 1981. Until Ray Leonard staged his magnificent comeback, that elevated Leonard to yet another level. A detached retina seemed to have Leonard retired for good, but the lure of another main event was simply too much. A lackluster win over lightly regarded Kevin Howard was nothing more than an inconvenience. But Leonard's charisma and sheer star power has allowed him to maneuver the fight game when he wants and how he wants. Marvelous Marvin Hagler became the next victim of the Leonard legend. Fighting for only the 2nd time in 3 years, Leonard merely ended Hagler's 7-year reign as middleweight champion. Winning 2 titles in one night was Leonard's next hurdle, as he TKO'd light heavyweight Donnie Lalonde. Leonard may have been the fighter of the decade, of the 80s, but the fight with Terry Norris was only his 6th since 1982, and his first in the 90s. In June of 1989, Leonard, despite being floored twice by Thomas Hearns in that long-awaited rematch, he was lucky to have eked out a draw with the Hitman. And in his last performance until the Norris fight, Leonard beat up an apparently over-the-hill Roberto Duran, but could only come up with a decision. I'm Charlie Steiner, ESPN.